a pleasant good afternoon to everyone. I'm sure I want to hear words from Mrs. Whittingham Gale first before we formally begin.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Just a warm welcome to everyone on this platform. Thank you very much for joining another meditation session. And special thank you for joining as well to those who are with us on Facebook Live. We have a very interesting topic to discuss, so we look forward to hearing from Ms. Shim. Ms. Shim, it's over to you.
All righty. So good afternoon, everyone. I am here yet again another week. Hopefully, by any indication, if we have any repeat offenders, meaning those persons who were here with us last week, welcome back. For those who are here with us or with me for the first time, welcome. I hope that you don't regret logging in and tuning in. As you can see by the title of the slide or from the posters that you've been seeing circulated, it's stress versus anxiety. Pretty much these are some very, hot button, hot topic words. Everybody is constantly saying, "Miss stress out," or you hear the go-to word anxiety. Oftentimes we hear our children using these words and you're probably wondering to yourself, my children have nothing to worry about. But just like with everything else, perspective is the main thing. If you feel it, you experience it, it is. So we're here to talk about the difference between the two, if they overlap, if they're interrelated for that matter. And we're pretty much going to be exploring different ways that can hopefully help you to counteract or deal with or combat or how to work through it. You know, because I know that this is something that many of us on some level or another deal with on a regular basis, on a daily basis. And for those who do not, I'm sure there are persons around you who do struggle with this. And so as a result of that, hopefully these are some tips and tricks and ways that we can kind of work with our bodies, work with our minds to kind of move through it, right? And a lot of the times persons will say, I don't have anxiety, I don't have it bad, but anxiety is there. Or you may be in a bit of denial, or maybe you have some habits that are very much because of anxiety, but you're not outrightly consciously aware of those things. So we're going to get right into it. We're talking about first and foremost, what is stress? And I hope that nobody can relate or identify with this very first slide that you see here, that says, this cartoon here that says there are only 2 times I feel stress, day and night. I hope nobody can relate to this comic here. However, the formal definition of stress is it's a negative emotional experience accompanied by predictable biochemical, physiological, cognitive, and behavioral changes that are directed either towards altering the stressful event or accommodating its effects. Now, as you can see, it's an ABC response negatively. That's what stress is: affective, behavioral, and cognitive. So it's something that your body registers as negative, your mind registers, and behaviorally it can be. And many of us have one of 3 responses to stress. We either fight, we either fly, or we freeze. Some of us can be so caught up in the stress that we freeze. We drop everything and we just kind of check out. We withdraw. We kind of just say, I can't deal with this. I can't go no further. Creep, right? While you have persons who fly, which means that they run away from it. They escape it in some way or the other. Find another job, or they run away from home, or, you know, delete the number or block this person. And you have those of us that are fighters who try and tackle the stressor head on. And sometimes it can look like aggression, sometimes it can look like noise, sometimes it looks like irritability, and sometimes it can be looks like problem solution focused. And of course, I know all of us can identify with the most common sources of stress: life events. That's pretty much an understatement, right? And of course, you know the usual presentation style that I have. You can always raise your hand if you have something to interject. And you can always put something in the chat to just add to the conversation, or if you have a question that pops up. And of course, towards the end, we can have an overall discussion about stuff, right? So like I said, common sources of stress include life events, relationships, and it's not just intimate relationships, but friendships, working relationships, parenting. I know that we can form a whole support group on just being a parent in and of itself. Any kind of change, going from having to work at this desk and you come one day and somebody said, oh, the office moved to somewhere else. Something as seemingly insignificant as a change like that can trigger a lot of stress. News, just hearing news, you hear about so and so, you see on the news where this happened, that is another major source of stress. And of course, on the other side, we can also form individual support groups on all of these too. Work stress, worrying about our health, finances. We know that money is the make or break of a lot of things. We never have enough of it. It always seems like we'll never amass the amount that we need to do everything. It always seems like, our efforts are not properly compensated, all sorts of things, right? All surrounding money. And of course, making decisions, having to decide. And I spoke to a parent recently who is a new parent, has one child, has a 1-year-old, and she keeps reading articles about achievements and stuff like that. And she's saying to herself, I feel like every decision I make, I'm going to traumatize my child. Am I going to allow him to eat the sweetie or don't make him have any sweetie at all? What happens if when him start school, him start eat sweetie and broke out? Suppose the sweetie and the sugar trigger anxiety. And it's just all of these different flooding thoughts of just simple decisions or seemingly simple decisions. And I know all of us go through that cycle as well. And of course, the list goes on, but research consistently shows where these 8 things are the top causes of stress or sources of stress for many of us to this day, right? And of course, I know that we are all in health, but I cannot go on more than 5 slides in without talking about the physical body and how stress can affect us. And if you notice, this is a very nice diagram with a whole heap of writing on it. And it's basically showing you that stress on the body affects you from head to toe, which is why you always hear our different MOHs say, take a break before your body takes a break for you. If you're sick, you need to give yourself time to recover. Similarly, mentally, it can affect you from head to toe. The brain and nerves, our grandmothers were not exaggerating when they said, Lord, you hot up my head, you burn up my nerves, all of those things are really, really physical things that can be affected when we are physiologically responding to stress. So feelings of despair, appetite, trouble concentrating, memory problems, trouble sleeping, mental health problems. Recently I had a friend of mine that was saying that, they set out to go and pick up their child from school, and because they were so preoccupied and trying to remember to stop at the supermarket for a particular thing that was needed, they go to the supermarket, get the thing, go pharmacy and get the thing, and reach home and forget to pick up the child altogether. Stress, right? You can also have skin issues, acne and other skin problems, your muscles and joints. That stress means that there's tension in the body. So the muscles and joints for sure, especially in the neck, shoulders, and back, that those are the key go-to areas for stress to manifest itself. We know that the heart can attack you, or you attack the heart with your stress. We know that stomach issues as well. Some of us, when we're undergoing stress, we eat too much or we don't eat at all. You can have heartburn, or our ulcers and all our stomach issues as well can really flare up when we're under stress. We have the pancreas as well, which I always call it the kind of forgotten organ to a certain extent, because everybody worries about the skin and the heart and everything else, but forget about the poor pancreas and how important it is. Now, when your body is under stress, it goes into survival mode to a certain extent. And when that happens, your body is busy trying to keep up with the brain and all the issues of ill treatment to the body. And so one of the first organs to go into go slow mode to compensate for all of that overworking is the pancreas, which is why you're more prone to developing diabetes when you're experiencing prolonged stretches of stress. Of course, we know about the intestines as well. Some of us know that when stress takes us, is either diarrhea, constipation, and other digestive problems. And of course, reproductive system, we know that for women, it can cause irregular or more painful periods, reduced sex drive. For men, it can cause incompetence as well, low sperm production and low sex drive. And of course, our immune system. We all know more than ever that is when we have the most deadlines due, the most things to contend with, that is when the fluid liquid down and we can't get up back. That is when, you know, all of that strikes us without no turning back, right? So definitely, you know, that stress is something that affects us from head to toe. So when we talk about stress, it sounds very similar to anxiety, don't it? But I would like to say that stress is kind of like the umbrella, and underneath it, things like anxiety, depression, and stuff can fall underneath it. Sometimes they overlap, and sometimes one can cause the other. And so you get into this hamster wheel of being stressed and anxious, or the stress cause anxiety, the anxiety cause stress, etc. So anxiety is an emotion characterized by feelings of tension, feelings of tension, worrying, thoughts, and physical changes that increase blood pressure. Now, people with anxiety disorders usually have recurring intrusive thoughts or concerns. So if you're that person who says, Lord have mercy, and then everything just falls, just rushes in after that, you can't even verbalize all the racing thoughts that you're having because you're so worried about everything that's happening, right? And it can also manifest itself physically. So you can have sweating, trembling, dizziness, fast heartbeat. And of course, if you have these symptoms persistently, you can develop anxiety disorders. And this is usually forced by years of experience. And some of us can be more prone to being anxious because of a genetic component, such as, you know, your family history has a tendency to struggle with anxiety. It could be an upbringing component wherein you can have parents or family members that kind of teach you how to be anxious to a certain extent. So you know that hyper vigilant parent that say, Lord of mercy, make sure you lock your door, make sure you have up your bag, make sure you do this, make sure you do that. You're all right, you're okay, you're sure, you're sure, you're sure. That that kind of environment, that kind of upbringing too, can to a certain extent foster anxiety. Now, every experience you have had can craft anxiety, just as any experience you've had in life can ensure that you don't have it, right? So it's a matter of how you interpret your experience. So it could be that you look at an experience and say, oh, I learned from it. And another person can have that same experience and say, oh my God, I would never want that to happen again. So many things could have gone wrong, etc. And of course, what I have in red here is anxiety may even have no real cause at all. So as much as we have educated guesses about sources of anxiety like genes, environment, upbringing, and stuff like that, sometimes you just don't have a reason. It just comes upon you. It just happens, right? So what are some of the causes? And before I get into the causes of it, I want to make sure that I'm talking to everybody to a certain extent. And what I mean by that is that there are certain things that can happen. There are certain things that can happen as well, or certain ways that we have about ourselves that may be based in anxiety and we're not consciously aware of it. So I'm just going to have us look at this video briefly, and then we get into where all these stresses can come from. All right. And for those of us that are just joining, thank you so much. We're talking about stress versus anxiety, and now we're at anxiety. So we're going to look at 10 daily habits that may be rooted in anxiety and we're not conscious of it. And I'd love for, as we're looking at them, you put in the chat whether this is something that you definitely do and didn't realize, or this is definitely a habit of mine. So just participate as you're watching the video in the chat. If the video mash your corn at any point, so to speak.
In psychological association, people with anxiety have a future-oriented fear, which leads them to avoiding anything that could potentially trigger a stress response. In 2017, the National Institute of Mental Health reported that approximately 40 million people worldwide suffer from anxiety. Anxiety disorders are highly treatable, but recent surveys show that only 36.9% of those suffering from it seek treatment. This might be because most people with anxiety worry about the judgment of others and how the stigma against mental illness might negatively affect their lives. Does this sound familiar to you? Do you worry you might be suffering from anxiety and just don't realize it? Here are 10 telltale signs of hidden anxiety to look out for. 1. You don't like talking to people face to face. You can easily keep a conversation going for hours when you're texting or chatting online with a friend. But talking to someone in person, no, that's an entirely different story. Even if you already know them well or have talked to them online, you still get tense and nervous talking to them in person. You have trouble making eye contact or finding the words to respond, and you want to end face-to-face conversations as soon as they begin. 2, you're always self-conscious. Do you walk into a room and immediately feel like everyone is staring at you, listening to you, and judging your every move? Or perhaps you're overly conscious of the way you walk, the way you eat, the way you sit, the sound of your voice when you talk, and so on? This could be a sign that you have hidden anxiety. 3, you're easily upset or irritated. Has anyone ever told you you're too sensitive? Do you find your feelings getting hurt easily? Are you quick to get angry or upset with others over the littlest things? This kind of emotional volatility may be a sign that you have high functioning anxiety, as anxiety can often make us easily overwhelmed and emotionally imbalanced. Frequent mood swings, temper tantrums, and irritability can be expected when you're overly anxious. 4, you're panicky and easily startled. Anxiety makes you want to be as in control and vigilant as possible. An unexpected phone call, a random knock on the door, an email with no subject, or a forgotten task you can easily finish. Anything is enough to send you reeling with panic. You go into a tailspin whenever something catches you off guard, and you find it hard to relax even when the smallest things don't go exactly as planned. 5, you're indecisive. Do you have trouble making even the simplest of choices? Are you afraid of making up your mind about something because you're so sure that whatever decision you make is going to be the wrong one? Oftentimes, anxiety can manifest as perfectionist tendencies, fear of failure, or distrust in oneself. If you can't make your own choices without thinking about it for hours and hours first, or consulting with all your friends and family, you might be harboring some hidden anxiety. 6, you overthink past conversations. You have a tendency to get hung up on past conversations, no matter how much time has passed since then. You analyze the other person's body language, facial expressions, choices of words, and even the tone of their voice. You can't help but think about what you should have done or said instead, and it drives you crazy and keeps you on edge every time you remember it. 7, you're always making yourself busy. It's common for people with anxiety to have a strong need to keep themselves busy. They like to occupy themselves with simple tasks and do as many things as possible in a day because sitting still and doing nothing for a long time can make them feel restless and on edge. 8, you talk yourself down all the time. Life isn't always kind to us, and self-love and a balanced lifestyle doesn't come easily. Living with anxiety, especially if it's hidden or suppressed, can make it hard for us to feel good about ourselves and let ourselves feel happy. It makes us believe that we don't deserve it and traps us in a vicious cycle of negative self-talk and constant pressure to be perfect. 9, you have a lot of negative thoughts. Are you a pessimist who's quick to find the downsides in every situation? Do you find yourself getting upset or stressing out over even the most minor inconveniences? Is every day a constant battle with yourself against the spiral of panicked and irrational thoughts you have? In 1997, famed psychologist and cognitive therapist Aaron Beck termed this kind of thought pattern as catastrophic thinking, which he often observed in his patients who suffered from anxiety. And 10, you experience physical symptoms. Sometimes anxiety can be entirely physical because while your conscious mind may not always be aware of your anxiety, it will definitely make itself known to your body. Things like erratic heartbeats, chest palpitations, muscle tension, a clenched jaw, shaky hands, and profuse sweating are all indicative of anxiety. Your body may be trying to let your mind know that you're feeling anxious and stop it before it gets any worse. Do you relate to any of the problems listed here, or do you do your best to seem okay and hide your symptoms because you feel embarrassed about your anxiety? The truth is, you're not alone, and having mental health issues is nothing to be ashamed of. But what do you plan to do next? Let us
Hello?
Hearing you, but not hearing Zoe. You're not hearing anything.
Oh, sorry, I had it muted by accident. Yes, so I was saying thank you so much for sharing in the chat. And usually when one person echoes a sentiment in the chat, I usually take it as an indication that at least 3 to 5 other persons are feeling similarly. So thank you for stepping up and sharing. And for those who are not quite comfortable with sharing, that's also fine. You know, it's something that all of us can process and express in different ways, right? So with anxiety, you realize that it's not just having palpitations, it's not just racing thoughts, but it can manifest itself in a million different ways, just busybodied. I'm sure you have core workers that you just call torment. Them can't sit still. It could be a form of anxiety, right? Or a way to distract themselves from having these racing thoughts. A recent study from the APA Association and Psychology Today shows that persons who like to watch movies they've seen before, or series, like, you know, I have a lot of friends who suffer from anxiety, and I find that part of their bedtime ritual is to rewatch a sitcom that they enjoy. They don't like watching new shows to unwind. The reason for that is because rewatching a show, you know how it's going to end, you know how it will make you feel, versus watching a new show, the unexpectedness, the lack of control can actually heighten your anxiety. So if you find you tend to prefer watching stuff that you've seen before, that's also a great indicator of having anxiety and not necessarily being aware of it. So things like that, you'd be amazed how certain little habits and stuff, you know, definitely can have it. So what are some of the sources of anxiety? Because a lot of the times we need to also pinpoint it. Part of how we tackle anxiety as well as stress is to pinpoint our sources. What is the cause? Where did it come from? How did it come about in the first place? And of course, like I said, stress and anxiety often overlap, right? So traumatic events can cause anxiety, but quote unquote simple life stress is easily one of the most common reasons that people develop anxiety. Stress, especially long-term stress, like one would experience in a job that they dislike or in a relationship that was emotionally damaging, can create anxiety. And of course, we know that the link between stress and anxiety is extensive. As I said at the beginning, oftentimes it's quite the hamster wheel of emotions. One cause this, the other cause the other, and it's like back and forth, overlapping, flowing one into the other to the point where you may not even be able to differentiate between the two. Now, there are possible reasons that stress can cause anxiety, includes, and of course, this is also the reason why I showed you the physiological manifestation of stress, because you can see how stress can trigger anxiety on a biological basis, right? So it can weaken the part of the brain that controls coping or anxiety. So there's actually a neurotransmitter or a chemical that's in the brain that is kind of like your mind's brake pedal. So when you have thoughts that say, Lord of mercy, what you know, me go dead, and this and that catastrophic thinking, there are some persons who may actually lack that chemical brake pedal. And undergoing a long period of stress can also lower the production of that. So on a physiological level, your brain can be trained to be more anxious or have a more anxious response to stress. Stress can also affect your balance of hormones and nutrition. And stress can also overwhelm the mind and make it harder to push anxiety away. Because of course, if you are stressed, your body is tired, your ability to resist anything is even more lowered. And so if anxiety comes into play, it's definitely harder to control if you're already running on fumes. You can also have, and this is part of what makes anxiety so difficult to contend with, is that anxiety can also cause anxiety. So anxiety is something that's quite self-sustaining. I always liken anxiety to a cactus. You don't have to water it, you don't have to plant it, you don't have to pot it. You can just kind of throw it down, and no matter what, it can thrive despite the most hostile environments. So similarly, anxiety is something that's very much self-sustaining. You know, of course, we find that if you have experienced symptoms of anxiety, you then wonder to yourself and you start to worry that, Lord, I hope these feelings don't come back again. And there's that anticipatory worry that they will return. So for example, if you found yourself nervous about finding out about someone who has COVID that you know, you might start fretting that you'll hear about more people that you know with it. If you find yourself worried about a negative thought, you may have that thought more often. If you experience severe anxiety symptoms, you may be anxious about experiencing those things again. So essentially, anxiety and a fear of anxiety can create more anxiety in the future and become their own self-sustaining cycle. So even justifiable anxiety, like feeling nervous about a child or a parent that you haven't heard from, can lead to unprompted and exacerbated versions of anxiety. So you can imagine, if you've had a negative experience, you may fear that it happens again. Similarly with anxiety, if you have those feelings, there's that fear that it will keep coming back. And so while you may not be actively anxious about something, there's always something on the back burner saying, yeah man, just wait. You soon mash up, you soon freak out again, you soon panic again, right? Now, we can also have anxiety caused by lifestyle habits. And this is why I'm so happy that we have this weekly forum in a way to kind of meet up and hopefully allow us to hold each other accountable and to support each other when we pick up on certain habits that may not be the best for our mental health as well as our physical health. So anxiety can actually be caused by lifestyle habits. So I don't want you to never underestimate the effect that your lifestyle can have on anxiety levels. Something as simple as lacking vitamins, particularly vitamin B12, right? I put it in the chat as well to make sure I'm clear. But there has been recent studies that show that if you lack vitamin B12, it can also train your body to have an anxious response when stress strikes. So something as simple as taking more supplements with vitamin B12 can actually improve your ability to resist anxious feelings. So another example is some research has shown that those who do not exercise, yes, exercise, are more prone to developing anxiety because their body has unused energy and because they start producing less stress coping hormones. So for example, if you have a job where you're at a desk all day, there's that physical energy that requires some amount of burnout, especially if you're eating a high calorie diet and that kind of thing. And the only thing that is running is your mind. Of course, that excess energy, it gives your mind the time to have those catastrophic thoughts, those, spiral thinking, right? Similarly, that diet doesn't necessarily traditionally cause anxiety. It can still play a role. So for example, caffeine can exacerbate mild anxiety symptoms, because what happens when you drink caffeine? It makes your heart race, it gives you palpitations, it can cause you to be irritable, unable to sleep, it can affect your concentration. Similarly, unhealthy foods can cause you to feel unhealthy, which in turn causes stress that leads to anxiety. And of course, we know that drug use as well. So that is why even with therapy and medicine, a change to lifestyle habits is often necessary. So what I always tell persons as a psychologist as well as, yes, I can give you tools, I can give you tips and tricks mentally to work through things, but I am only maybe 45 minutes out of your 24 hours. And suppose I don't see you every day. I'm just having a session with you once a week or once every other week. What happens to all that other time? You have to give your body a fighting chance to compete with those things. So if you find that you are not eating on time, that alone, right? So other correlations that are confirmed to affect anxiety include watching television, social media. A lot of the times we tend to follow one accident or follow one news station, and of course it will pop up and prompt other catastrophic news items. If you are nervous about where you are in life and you keep liking up people who are married and engaged and seem so happy, and you did a miserable, and you keep looking at all of those things, it can spiral into anxiety as well. We find that sugar, sleep deprivation, coffee, alcohol withdrawal, eating certain foods, and of course dehydration. You know that being thirsty can trigger anxiety? Yes. And I will tell you a fun fact: the moment that you feel thirsty means that you're already to a certain extent dehydrated. So don't wait until you're thirsty to sip some water. So as I'm talking right now, if you have access to a little beverage, a little water, please take the time to sip as you listen, right? You're doing your body good and you're helping your mind as well. Water the body, water the mind, water down the anxiety, right? And I wish it was that simple. So, of course, as I said, anxiety can manifest itself in many different ways. And you have certain types of anxiety. And of course, each type has difference in severity. So you can have mild, moderate, or severe. And we've talked about the common symptoms that you can see on your screen there. And it can be inclusive of less common symptoms like rashes. Did you know that persons can become so anxious that they can break out in hives or in rashes? You can have a leg pain. You can have a feeling of choking or stifling. You can have asthma attacks. I had an aunt who, every time she had anxious thoughts, she would end up wheezing and needing to be nebulized. So even though she was asthmatic, right? Every time she became stressed out or anxious about something, it would trigger an asthma attack, right? So, the mind is a very strong thing. Now you have 7 main types of anxiety or main categories. You can have generalized anxiety disorder. And this is the one where you don't really know what specifically you're worried about. It's just like everything you can create a scenario of anything and be worried. Somebody could pay you to fret for them. You're having a good day and you say, oh, this day was so nice. I bet you something terrible going to happen if you just cancel out everything. So you can have generalized anxiety. You can have social phobia. And I'm finding now more than ever, especially with our COVID kids, quote unquote. So kids who have not been interacting with persons, just simply going to a full supermarket now, everybody in their masks, it can cause social phobia. You also have panic disorder, which we know is one of the more severe forms of anxiety. You can have agoraphobia, which is a fear of open spaces. And you can have phobias, which are fears that trigger. You have thousands and hundreds and thousands of phobias. So you can have a phobia about mathematics. You can have a phobia about closed spaces, a phobia about germs, you know? That's another form of anxiety. I know enough people have phobia about cockroach and lizard and rat, right? And we know the most popular type of anxiety, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. And this is, of course, your stress response or anxiety-ridden response due to a traumatic event. And when we talk about traumatic, oftentimes people think something large and exorbitant, like a car crash where people died, or a wildfire, or a hurricane. But a traumatic event could be something as simple as watching a movie and you feel like, you know, the child that died in the movie is the same age as your child. So you just keep having these thoughts where, you know, the same thing could happen to your child. So when I talk about post-traumatic stress disorder, you know, it can be triggered by anything. And of course, you have obsessive compulsive disorder, which is less popular. And of course, hopefully it's not something that anybody here struggles with, but it is very much a form of anxiety. Most people can identify OCD with series like Monk, or I think there's a particular character in one of the CSIs as well, where they need things neat and tidy. But it's far more than that. It's intrusive, anxious thoughts that says if you don't keep things in order, something terrible is going to happen. So if you're the type that believes that if you don't make your bed before you leave home, that means that your house might burn down. Things like that. And one of the major things I want to highlight here when we talk about anxiety is that 99% of the time, you will know that it's anxiety. You will know that it may not be the most rational feeling, but at the same time, you're unable to stop it. So you know what it is. You're conscious of it. You know that it may be irrational. You know it's going to be okay, but at the same time, you can't help yourself from stopping it. You don't have that mental brake pedal. So this self-appraisal of anxiety, I'm going to share it in the chat, and hopefully at the end of this session, you all will be able to copy and paste it and take it. I find it to be a very useful free test. And what it does is that it pretty much tests your anxiety level. So it helps you to assess if you have it mild, moderate to severe. And it also gives you a summary of the major categories of stress as well. So it's definitely something I would encourage persons to use that link or use that site, and it emails you a detailed thing. Now, of course, it's no way a formal diagnosis of it, but it definitely gives you a great summary and a good idea of what areas you may be anxious about. If you have struggles with pinpointing what is it that causes anxiety the most in your life, right? So I encourage you, don't do it now. It might be distracting, right? But I encourage persons to definitely give it a try, right? So before we get into ways to combat the stress, can anybody tell me or have any feedback, anything that you want to say at this point before we go into the solution part of things? How do we combat it? No, I think we're okay so far. All right. So
I see in the chat someone put there to be positive to avoid all of this.
Yes, and that's definitely something that we're going to discuss actually in the solution-oriented aspect of things. So yes, I take that, and that's going to be one of the springboard discussions that we're going to have today. All right. So how to combat it, right? Now, one of the major things that I always tell persons from the very first part is once you determine that you do have challenges with anxiety, we need to figure out your triggers. We need to identify what is it that happens to your body. What is it that happens to your thoughts, right? We have to recognize your symptoms. You have to recognize your behavior, right? So focusing on figuring out what your triggers are. Is it that every time I cross this place, or every time it's this time of the month or this time of the year, when I'm around this particular person, or, you know, when the phone rings, you know, I know that at one point, what is happening when your mind keeps telling you that you're going to die? That's a very good question. And actually, that is one of those intrusive thoughts that are very common with persons who suffer from anxiety. So it's one that is something that you're clearly worried about, the way that you're going to die, if there's going to be pain and suffering. And that's definitely one of the triggering thoughts, perhaps, that you have clearly readily identified as one of the things that let you know that you're experiencing a noticeable amount of anxiety. So you need to recognize the symptoms, observe your behavior, and then the next thing is to focus on the present moment. What we find is that a majority of the time, persons who suffer from anxiety, there's a lot of anticipatory stress. So you're worried about what's going to happen next. You're worried about what happened in the past. And it's very difficult for you to ground yourself in the present moment. So, for example, you're at work and you're worried about what you're going to go home and cook for dinner. You're worried about all the things that I've left undone. You're worried about what's going to happen next week, or if you're going to meet this deadline. So focusing on the present moment to say, guess what? I cannot control the future. I can control what's happening right now. Let me focus fully on the task at hand, or what I'm doing currently, so that you can stop your thoughts from what's going to happen tomorrow. Another thing is to put things into perspective. You know, again, a lot of the times when you look at what is, like the question Marcia poses, what happens if your mind keeps telling you that you're going to die? Put things into perspective. You know, what is a scenario that is triggering that thought to say, I'm at my desk, I'm doing work, I'm surrounded by persons, I am okay, I physically feel fine now. Perhaps I'm sleep deprived, perhaps I need to get something to eat. You know, putting things into perspective, you know, allows you to kind of ground yourself again, because again, anxiety is one of those things where your mind is easy to run away and it runs down a dark path. So we want to put things into perspective. The fifth step is optimize your body language. So something as simple as getting up and walking around, having a stretch, doing deep breaths, you know, doing things physically, because again, anxiety is something where you get caught up in your head. You get stuck up in the mind region, and that's where things become very dangerous. So bring it outside, say out loud, Lord have mercy, or you sigh, or, you know, and we're going to talk about some positive affirmations that we can say in those moments. So part of optimizing your body language is just being able to stretch, do a shake, go for a walk, you know, just find something to make you laugh, or to find a song that will calm you down. But a lot of the times when we're anxious, we get stuck in our brain and we just forget about our bodies. So we have to ground ourselves again by using our bodies in some way or the other. Then, of course, start taking control. You say, hold on, stick a pin. Let's start over. You know, when we say take control, it just simply means, you know what? We're okay. We're gonna be fine. Yes, I'm overwhelmed right now, but this too shall pass. It's not something that's going to last forever. I'm gonna be fine. So you have to figure out what your mantra is that will help to calm you down. And of course, this is definitely going to take a lot of trial and error. What phrase may work for one person may not work for you, all right? So like I said, stop and breathe. Practice this simple breathing technique. And I'm just gonna walk you through it real quick right now. Hopefully everybody here is in a seated position already, or you're in a position where you can get comfortable to a certain extent. And this breathing technique can work while you're driving, while you're at work, when you're at home with the kids and you're overwhelmed, but it's one where you can get into a comfortable position. The next step is to close your eyes. Now, of course, if you're driving, please don't close your eyes, guys, right? If you're in a seated stationary position, you close your eyes and inhale slowly through your nose. Follow this through with deep exhalation. So one of the things is to allow you to focus on something else outside of your racing thoughts. So you focus on your breath. So you inhale slowly through the nose and out through the mouth. And also on a physiological level, flooding your body with that fresh oxygen supply also has something to do with allowing your body physiologically to calm down, right? So inhaling and deeply exhaling. And you continue to breathe deeply and fully in and out of your nose and allow your breath to be a guide to the present. So again, you get caught up in your head. So we're trying to bring our attention back to our bodies and to what is happening presently. If it's even for you as you're breathing, you notice, say, whoa, the pants belt too tight. Lord, the brassiere uncomfortable. Why this hairpin? Lord, the wig hot. Boy, the shoes squeezing me. Even things like that helps you to bring yourself back to the present, right? And you can use a mantra, something as simple as be present as you breathe. You inhale in and exhale, be present. You know, you can inhale be and exhale present. It's any method that works for you. But again, it's all about trial and error. Another thing is positive self-talk. Again, anxiety is usually classically accompanied with this catastrophic thinking, the racing thoughts, the running through your mind to say, Lord have mercy, how am I going to manage? So things like these affirmations that you see, this positive self-talk here. What's meant to be will be. We'll deal with it when it comes. The past is the past. Today will be a good day. I am more than my anxiety. And please, people, when you say it, you must say it like you mean it, Just like how the thoughts tell you that, oh, this is going to be a terrible day. Watch me just get fired, right? You must say the same positive things with that kind of conviction. If anything, you can even say it out loud. It don't matter if people think, say, you look like you lost off your rockers a little bit. It's okay. Say what you need to say to get yourself back and present. So things like, I am stronger than I know, right? I am prepared for change. I am safe and loved. I am worthy of love and respect. I am relaxed and calm. You know that kind of fake it till you make it thing. So while you're panicking, you say, I am relaxed and calm. I am relaxed and calm, right? I am entitled to happiness. A lot of the times, anxiety can be based in this feeling that you don't deserve happiness or you don't deserve a smooth day. You don't deserve things to go smoothly. So saying to yourself, I am entitled to happiness is a very strong statement to make for yourself. I am in control of how I see the world, so I can make it positive, right? I am kind to myself and those around me. I often tell persons, you need to treat yourself like how you treat your favorite loved one. Can you imagine if you were to assess, if you were a friend to yourself and you say you assess how that friend treats you, would you say that's a good friend or not? So you need to treat yourself like your favorite loved ones. Spoil yourself, love yourself, right? Make the effort for yourself. Many times we kill up ourselves for everybody else and have nothing left for ourselves. Please, I am entitled to a happiness. I feel strong and well. I believe everything will work out. I accept myself for who I am. Again, we can beat up ourselves about past conversations. We beat up ourselves about what is going to happen, the decisions that we have made. So I accept myself for who I am. I choose to be positive. I can overcome anything that comes my way. I matter. Each breath I take fills me with confidence and happiness. especially in those moments where you feel very self-conscious about how you walk, how you dress, how you're eating. Eating around persons can give you anxiety. You just say to yourself, each breath I take fills me with confidence and happiness. I am whole. I can do this. Anxiety is a visitor passing through. Whatever I do today is enough, and so am I, right? Whatever I do today is enough, and so am I. I can take things one step at a time, right? I have everything I need to overcome this challenge, and I believe in my abilities. Let me say that one again. I have everything I need to overcome this challenge, and I believe in my abilities. I have the power to change my mind. So whichever one of these statements or a few of these statements that resonate with you, I encourage you, write it down, screenshot it, do what you must so that this can be. And even if you don't struggle with anxiety, this is definitely something that you can use to start your day, to kind of relax, to go to sleep. It doesn't hurt to have this in your artillery of things for self-care. And of course, how do we cope with stress? And if you've seen any presentation of mine, you know that I've been preaching this for at least 10 years now. The 5 R's of coping with stress: rethink, reduce, reorganize, release, and relax. And I'm doing well for time, right? So rethink. Again, a lot of the time we are so, if we were to pay you to think about what will go wrong, you'd be a millionaire. It would be effortless. It wouldn't feel like work. So rethinking, changing your perspective, doing a reality check, put things into perspective. Ask yourself, will I remember what's made me so upset a month from now? If you had to rank this problem on a scale of 1 to 10, with worldwide catastrophe as 10, where would it rate? You know, put things into perspective. Reality check, find the positive, you know? Yes, it didn't work out in the way that I want to, but there must be some good that will come from this. I may not see it now, but I'll see it eventually. We're talking about reducing. Sometimes we are very much the type to take on the world. Yes, I will do the PTA. Yes, I will pick up. Yes, I will volunteer. Yes, I will clean up the house. Yes, I will do this, that, and the other. And then you realize you cannot pour from an empty cup. So sometimes we have to say no. Cutting back on the overall volume of stressors in your life, in the areas that you can control. Yes, I know that sometimes, if not all the time, we cannot be in control of the to-do lists that are given to us at work. But you say, you know what? I do what I can as best as I can. And that's it, you know? Understand your stress signals, you know, learn to recognize what happens to your body or your mind when you are stressed out. I will tell persons all the time that my telltale sign that I am stressed out or anxious or tired is that I'll be searching the house high and low for my glasses and it's on my face, right? Searching high and low, you know, and cussing to myself, how am I going to find the glasses if I need the glasses to see? And then when I pass a mirror, where is the glasses? On my face. Right? So I know when I start doing kind of silly things like that, I know for sure that, yeah, I need to take a break before my body takes a break for me. We also need to relax. And it goes back to that whole breathing statement. Being able to take deep, relaxing breaths to relax the body and quiet the mind. I started today's session with this artist that I truly love, and I don't think I've met anybody that does not like him. He's called FKJ, and the song that I played earlier was called Tadao. And it's just an instrumental played on a loop, and it's been researched that these kind of chill hop instrumentals are known to relax your body mentally and physically. There's something about it that subliminally relaxes you. And when I talk about relaxation, some persons say, boy, I need a 1 month vacation. No, a lot of persons will think, oh, I need a vacation. And when you take the vacation, it takes 10 days for you to relax. The 11th day, you're finally unwinding. And by day 13, you just start to sleep in. By day 14, it's time to go back to work because you don't know how to relax in the first place. So train yourself to relax when you can. If it's even at 5 minutes in the shower to breathe deeply, please don't breathe deeply in the shower, right? You might have drowned, right? But to enjoy the shower, to say, okay, I love that I'm cleaning myself. I love that the water is just washing off the day's crosses. Something as simple as while you're doing certain activities that you're just present in it, or just watching a video, giving yourself the time to relax, right? Yes, Kerry Brown Ellis know the song well. Wonderful. It's also important to release, right? Exercise and laughter. Those are the two most popular and most immediately instant gratification type things. Exercise and laughter. Exercise gets rid of the tension, it loosens the muscles, it gets everything going. Laughter, of course, humor counters stress by focusing on comedic aspects of difficult situations, right? And it's research is showing that it helps to strengthen the immune system and overall health. You find that persons have a very good sense of humor tend to combat stress a lot better than most, right? So being able to find the humor in things definitely makes a difference, right? Another thing, and the final thing I believe it is to reorganize. A lot of the times we are anxious because our lives feel like we are running chickens with our heads cut off. We're not organized. Is the morning off, you realize the blouse you need to wear in an iron. Is when you reach to work, you realize you forget this. You reach to this place, you know you're going to be there all day and you don't know what you're going to eat or drink. So simple things like planning ahead of time, laying out your outfit from the night before, packing the handbag or the car from the night before. So the morning off, you just roll out of bed and everything just flow. Cleaning your shoes from the night before, prepping your meals, having your thermos and using your ice and water from the night before. So in the morning, you just grab it and go. Organizing yourself, writing to-do lists and doing it in such a way that it makes sense. I know persons who say, Zoe, I tried the listing and I feel like a chicken with my head cut off, but I have a to-do list with it because they're not organizing the list either. See if you can group things together to say, okay, while I'm in Fairview, let me do these 3 things. While I'm in this area of the office, let me do these 2 things. So you're not going back and forth and round, right? So reorganizing. And when I talk about reorganizing, I also mean reorganizing your eating and drinking habits, walking with your pail of water so you sip throughout the day, being able to walk with a snack in your bag so that when the hungry take you, you don't make those irresponsible decisions where you go buy the cheese sticks or the fried chicken with the extra gravy or the soda because you never walk with this or that. So you're having snacks in your bag allows you to eat so you can say, all right, I can get the soup instead. Let me choose the baked chicken. Don't wait until you're at the point of starvation and you give yourself the excuse, Lord, I was dead in. Somebody did have to eat the fried fowl. And oh, the vegetables never look fresh, right? If you notice, look at the plate that's there. The vegetables is the biggest portion, right? And I always have to address that part. The health educator in me will not die, right? So of course, these are different things that we can do to reorganize ourselves because again, just having a flow of things. And for persons with anxiety, you tend to worry about having a lack of control. So reorganizing and feeling a sense of preparation to your day also can put your mind at ease a lot of the time, right? So of course, the closing thing is it's not what happens to us, but our perceptions, beliefs, and what we tell ourselves about what happens to us. That produces stressful emotions and cause almost all forms of emotional distress, right? So before I open the floor for comments, I have one final video to show.
Hey, Psych2Goers, welcome back.
So that we can wrap up things quite nicely and succinctly. And of course, all comments and questions I'll take after that. And I'm sorry I've run over the time a little bit, but you know, this is what happens when you have topics I'm passionate about. All right.
To our channel. Your ongoing support helps us further in our goal to spread awareness about mental health and psychology. Thank you so much for all the love and support. Now to the video. At times, we can feel stress and anxiety reach new levels. You may have felt so overwhelmingly stressed that you wouldn't turn in assignments on time, or you may have felt an abrupt feeling of anxiety wash over you as you walked over to a class podium for a presentation. Or perhaps your stress and anxiety seem constant and unrelenting. It may be difficult to do seemingly simple tasks at all because you're too overwhelmed by your anxious thoughts and stressful to-do list. Well, to help relieve you, here are some daily habits that can reduce your stress and anxiety. Number 1, washing dishes. Washing dishes? Yeah, you heard that right. According to researchers at Florida State University, washing dishes can have a positive effect on your well-being. In an effort to test which daily activities relieve stress, researchers conducted a study with the help of 51 students as subjects. They found that those who mindfully washed dishes reported a decrease in nervousness by 27% and an increase in mental inspiration by 25%. The control group, on the other hand, did not experience any of the positive effects of mindful dishwashing. So how can you practice mindful dishwashing? You simply have to be aware of your senses while washing the tomato sauce off your lasagna plate. Focus on the smell, although it might not be great. Try focusing on the smell of the soap. Also, focus on the warm water and the feel of the glasses and plates in your hands. Grounding yourself in reality by focusing on your surroundings can help you relieve stress. Number 2, cuddling, hugging, and holding hands. The relaxing feeling of a cozy cuddle or warm hug. Well, that loving feeling you get when you hug, kiss, or hold hands with someone is likely due to the increased flow of endorphins humans often get from a loving hug. According to several studies, the pleasing chemical endorphins increase from cuddles and hugs, while the release of the stress chemical cortisol slows from hugs. So next time you have a chance to hug someone you love, go ahead. You'll only feel happier, and they will too. If you don't have anyone to cuddle with right now, a plushie would work too. Number 3, make good posture a habit. I bet you're slouching right now, aren't you? No? Then you've made me proud, Psych2Goer. You've made me proud. Slouching? Well, don't worry. I'll teach you the benefits of great posture, my little slouchy grasshopper. We are all guilty of slouching at times, but there are some positive effects on maintaining correct posture. According to a study in the Journal of Behavior Therapy and Experimental Psychiatry, upright posture can have a positive effect and reduce fatigue. The preliminary study's conclusions suggested that adopting an upright posture may increase positive effect, reduce fatigue, and decrease self-focus in people with mild to moderate depression. So maybe you're feeling a little bit tired or inattentive. Try maintaining good posture for 3 minutes and see how you feel after. Still feel tired? Maybe take a nap next. Number 4, view stress as a challenge. When we are stressed or anxious, we often feel discouraged and, well, feel even more stressed or anxious due to these feelings in the first place. Think about it. If you continue to ruminate on a worrisome thought, your anxiety and stress will only grow. Instead, try viewing stress as a challenge. Psychologist Kenny McGonigal recommends in her book, The Upside of Stress, to reframe any stressful event or anxious circumstance as a challenge. Preliminary research shows that those who adopt this mindset exhibit fewer stressful events and suffer less from negative health effects. Use this response to stress as an opportunity to grow as a person. View how you can react differently and what that will do to you and the situation. How will you feel in the long run if you react this way? What if you view your stress as a long-lost friend who needs a break or some talking to in order to calm down? Well, if you talk to them, you may just hit it off and then you may not view stress as an enemy at all, but as a friend who simply needs to be reasoned with. Number 5, meditate. I'm sure you've heard before about the benefits of meditation, but if you know your day is bound to be busy and stressful, put aside 5 or 10 minutes each morning to ease into it with some mindful meditation. It will likely be difficult to jump into a full hour's worth of meditation, so take it in baby steps. Start with 5 minutes each morning. Once you've mastered that, add an additional 5 each week until you feel comfortable. Neuroscientist Gail DeBoard demonstrated through fMRI research that changes in brain activity in subjects who had learned to meditate were unchanged even when they were not meditating. The board recorded brain activity and took scans of subjects' brains while they meditated and after, while they completed everyday tasks. The scans still showed the changes in the brain activation patterns, continuing to the end of the study. This was the first time this sort of change had been discovered in the part of the brain known as the amygdala. And number 6, go to bed on time. Do you go to bed on time? What time are you watching this video? If it's past your bedtime, go to bed after this tip. If it's not past your bedtime, I am once again proud. It is vital to our mental health that we get enough sleep. Sleep deprivation can impact our anxiety for the worse. According to research, not getting enough rest can increase the brain's anticipatory reactions, intensifying your anxiety and stress levels. So check the clock. Is it past your bedtime? It's time you make going to bed on time a daily habit, or a nightly one. So, will you practice these habits? Which will you try first?
Okay, so there we have it. Anxiety, tackling it, stress, how we deal with it, all the things. And I have put in the chat 2 of the videos that I shared earlier and the one that we were listening to right now. And I have shared an additional video on the eight additional signs that you may be dealing with anxiety. So as you can see there, and of course the different habits. Now I want to tackle some of the stuff that persons were reacting to. I see the one about mundane tasks like washing dishes. It's just like what I was talking about earlier in terms of taking a deep breath and being very present in terms of what's happening in your body. Anxiety is something where you tend to get lost in your mind. And so as a result of that, doing mundane tasks like washing the dishes is something that you know you can do well. So oftentimes with anxiety, you're beating yourself up about what not going right and what you can and cannot do. So as a result of that, doing the dishes, folding the laundry, hanging out clothes, sweeping, mopping, those kind of things help you to focus on bring you back to the present. You say, Lord, what a way the place dusty, or wow, I love a clean kitchen, or folding the laundry. Okay, everything is organized. I know what clothes are clean from what is it. So it's things like that that allows you to ground you. It's not challenging. It's not something that should be taxing. Well, of course, it gets annoying to do these tasks, of course, but it's not like having to write a dissertation or take a statistics quiz, So it's things like that that helps to relax you and to focus and to relieve the anxiety. Having good posture as well. Again, having good posture encourages you to breathe better, to breathe deeper. And of course, it helps with circulation and all the things. And of course, we know that stress and anxiety is closely related to what our bodies are doing or not doing. And so as a result, these are some of the habits that we can do to sure, no problem. So of course, that's the type of thing that we're talking about. So these different habits, and again, I shared it in the chat, the actual video, so you can just download it. Each of them are 5 minutes or less. And it's good, it's a good thing to kind of share with persons in your WhatsApp or just for you to have to re-listen to and let you know that these are the things that you can do. I encourage you to take note of the affirmations, put them on post-its at your desk, put them in the diary, put it on your fridge, wherever it is that you feel that you encounter anxiety the most. Definitely it's something that can be helpful to just kind of ground you. What I would also encourage you to do is establish some kind of body system. Now, I kind of hesitate to tell you that as a tool to manage anxiety, but of course, it's definitely one of the things that can help you, remind you of what you need to be doing. But I don't want you to do it to the point where you rely on that person to help with your anxiety. It shouldn't be every time you feel anxious, you call this person. And the one day you don't get them, you spiral out of control. It's just an additional tool. So say you have somebody you get along with at work. If you find, you say, listen, anytime I go quiet for too long, please just snap a finger and say, hey, come back to me. So that, you can get out of your head, so to speak. Right? So yeah, So I also shared again the recoveryformula.com. That's where you can get a free 100% free appraisal of anxiety. It tells you what out of 100 what your general anxiety level is, and it also gives you a summary of what type of anxiety you seem to be struggling with, whether it's a specific one, generalized, etc., and the extent of it. And it also provides links that gives you additional tools and steps that you can use to probably combat those things, right? Of course, it's not a diagnostic test, but it's definitely a good starting place to kind of help, you know, narrow down what you may be experiencing. All right, so let me look in the chat and see what is happening. So yeah, the test is there that you can take. You have the 3 videos, 2 about anxiety, 1 on how to combat it. Okay, love your presentation. I feel good. Oh, thank you, Carol. I appreciate it. All right, so do we have any additional questions or concerns? Any final comments? Because these are my many words in Jesus' name. Amen. Oh, thank you, Nikki. Thanks so much. Yes, Marcia, I see a hand up.
I have a concern.
I saw 2 Marcias a while ago. So this Marcia and then the other one.
Yeah, I have a concern.
Sure.
You know, I think I'm going through something that I know it's not okay, but I just don't understand what is happening. So I feel like I am not really interested in anything at all. And I feel like I would just not go to work. I would just retire and stay home. If I'm to go somewhere, like Sunday was my birthday and I wanted to do something, and because I can't make up my mind, I just flip flop until I actually didn't do anything. Yeah, so that's what is happening. Yeah.
Well, Marcia, it definitely sounds like you have the classic symptoms of anxiety where you find yourself in a loop till you end up just freezing and not doing anything. So definitely it's something that I encourage you that we need to talk one-on-one. So I'm not going to let this week pass without reaching out to you. So I'm going to get your number so we can talk one-on-one. And I'm happy that you're able to share with us and readily identify the things that you're struggling with. And as a result of that, we can definitely tackle it together. So we'll talk off the air one-on-one. All right.
I would really like that.
Okay, for sure. So just WhatsApp me if anything, but we're definitely going to tackle that. We won't let another week pass. Please and thanks.
All right.
Don't bother make me be one of the things you think about and then you don't do it. All right. I see someone, Brown Lawrence, you wanted the videos. Let me resend those. I saw Marcia Campbell.
Hi. When I'm driving and on my phone, so I can't access the link. So if somebody can just put it in one of the WhatsApp groups, it would be really good.
Okay.
Zoe, I really love your presentation. Absolutely marvelous and very, very relevant at this time. Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you.
I second.
I'll WhatsApp you the link, Dr. Campbell. I'll WhatsApp you everything. Thank you, Nikki.
Good evening. Is Mrs. Whittingham saying that the videos link will be shared on the staff welfare YouTube too? Is that what you're saying? Because a lot of us not seeing it. Is that what you're saying, Mrs. Whittingham?
Yes, I think that's what she's saying. And I'll also send her the videos so that she can forward it. So I'll send the links as well as the videos themselves. And I see where someone is asking, how do they become a part of the WhatsApp group? So if you have a link for that WhatsApp group, if it's something that persons can openly join, please share that link in the chat as well.
We don't currently have a WhatsApp group for the Monday afternoon meditation. We
Okay.
do have, what we often share it in is a staff of their committee group that we often send information to, and then persons from the committee would send it out to other groups, etc. So
Okay.
if the person wants to be a part of our staff affair group, then they can join. Otherwise, the information will be shared on our YouTube and Facebook and Instagram page. So we have 3 platforms through which we share information.
Okay, doke. All right. Hopefully you're able to see the video that I shared in the chat again, the 6 habits to reduce stress and anxiety. Free therapy by doing home duties. Yes, I'm always open to free therapy. And of course, persons, I hope you know that if the time permits, I'll happily do presentations of this versions of these presentations to other groups as well, because of course, if we can all pass on healthy ways of coping with these very difficult emotions, the less work it is for me in the long run. So I'll happily share in different platforms. So you can always contact me through the organizers of this forum or through your MOHs. I think most people have my number, so you should be able to WhatsApp. Yes, gardening is very good. Yes. And bird watching, honestly, or even just sitting in a parking lot and watching passers-by and just looking at the comings and goings of persons, that's also quite relaxing. All right, Thompson, noted. All right, so I think that's it for me. Thank you, Julia. I appreciate it, everyone.
Boy, Zoe, we can't, we want you every day, man. Sure. You know that today we had 51 participants and we are growing, and this is one of our largest congregations so far.
Yeah, and at one point we had almost 60, I saw.
Yeah. And so your topics, your delivery style, you're pulling in the persons. And I want to also say a big thank you to the audience for tuning in each week and for sharing this with the other members of the of RHA, because obviously word is getting out and you doing such a wonderful presentations. Persons are interested in hearing what you have to say. And I must say, my daughter is with me. She has been listening. She's been, oh, wonderful presentation. And she's like, just 12. So I'm saying, yes, you're doing such an awesome job that you made it easy and clear for my daughter to understand.
Well, she can do the quiz as well. She can do the anxiety quiz as well.
And you know that you would have reached the population when children can understand you. And I'm very happy for that. So we look forward to future works again. We don't want to stress it too much and take away your Mondays, but you know, we're gonna be calling you back again. But for now, we want to big thank you. I want everybody to open the mic and just give Miss Shim a big round of applause. She did such a wonderful job. Well, yourself, Zoe. We don't really have anything figure right now, except
I don't want anything. I enjoy it. I hope my enthusiasm and passion translates, because you know this is things I love to do.
It always does.
So
yes, Zoe. So we appreciate it. So everybody, thanks, Dr. Graham, Nikin, Nurse Bihari, all of you.
Yeah, I gave her a vuvuzela shout out.
Thanks for coming a week time. So we're gonna make you go back, go wash your plate now and start out in the brain.
No, I need to go home.
Yes, you can sleep at night.
And use the pot as therapy. Scrub the pot, them would get too scratch bright, and scrub them good, you'll get better by the next morning.
Rake the yard.
Yes. So Miss Shim, I'm going to ask you to close for everyone for me. Just leave the meeting for everyone so it just closes off and the recording is complete.
Okay.
And we're gonna post this recording online by tomorrow. So you all can watch it and resend it out and repost it.
Okay.
The one she did before is posted because I missed that one. Sadly.
Yes, they're posted so you can see them on all the platforms. Plus, if
every Monday, my dear, every Monday at 6 p.m.
Yes, and
somebody's asking.
Yes. So goodbye, everybody. So see you all tomorrow. So close out for me,
Bye,
please, Zoe,
keep
and thanks
safe.
again.
All
Yeah,
right.
next week, Monday, same place, same
Same
time.
time, same
For
place.
Monday.
Thank you very
Bless
much,
you.
Zoe.
Bye.
Love it, love it. Very good.
Bye-bye.
Very timely. Mercy. We did need it.
All righty.
Washing place with a new perspective now. No more grumbling and complaining. Just being mindful and doing it well.
And breathe in and breathe out.
No.
Indeed.
Whatever you want, you just go get